over to you.
Okay, well, the SmartMister is a product that takes hydrochloric acid, which is the product that's in your body as part of your immune system that kills bacteria and germs. We put that into a device, we heat it up and we pass air through it, and we then distribute that into a workplace. It then runs through the air and destroys any pathogens, destroys bacteria, funguses, mushroom spores, and then it settles onto a surface. And as it settles onto a surface, it leaves a slight powder, which is difficult to see, but anything that lands on there, like us breathing a pathogen on or a virus falling onto it, is basically becomes inert within 1 to 3 seconds. So it's a great way of sanitizing a surface. We recommend that you use this in the evening when there's nobody in the building, and that way you'll set it going at, say, 4 o'clock in the morning. It finishes at 5 o'clock in the morning. People come in at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and every surface is clean and sanitized to a medical standard. So if a cleaner comes in, they can never accuse you of catching any problems from surfaces, etc. And that's roughly the box, the quick version of it.
Fab. So what kind of coverage does it do? So what kind of size room would one SmartMister cover?
There's a World Health Organization and NHS guidelines of how much of the sanitation product needs to actually live on surfaces and under. So if you've got a desk, chewing gum underneath a school desk, and to do that, it's 30 cubic meters to about 50 cubic meters for an hour of use. So it normally does about 30 cubic meters, a small office size. And if you've got bigger rooms, you can leave it on for longer, but then we recommend that you run around with a device that allows you to detect whether it's reached 80 meters down the corridor. So it's normally 30 to 50 cubic meters.
Because I think here at our building we've got, because I'm at Data Direct Bradford and Ray's down at Finch Hampstead at head office, and we have these machines running upstairs and downstairs in the morning, with two upstairs and 2 downstairs, just to make sure we have the correct coverage going on. The same with you guys, right?
Yes, we've got one it's an open plan large office upstairs, which is more about 140 cubic meters, much bigger, and we use the one machine, but we leave it on longer. In the manual, there's a calculation that basically says multiply the length by the breadth of the room and keep it away from open windows, fire alarms, things like that, and then you multiply it by this number and it tells you how long to leave it on for. But yes, normally coverage it's easy to work out.
And realistically, because of the it's got an app system with it, hasn't it? So you can use an app to turn it on and off. So you could actually turn our machine on here as well as the one down where you are. It all app controlled.
Yeah, I can just go to an app, choose the machine north or south, and turn it on, and basically it comes on. Which is good so you can set this with a timer that will say turn on at 4 o'clock in the morning and turn off whenever it requires, so say 4:30 or 5:30 or something. But if you've got people that want to work in a building, say electricians are changing the LED lights overnight, and you ask them, they want it to be turned off on a Tuesday night, you can effectively just go in and set an exception, and if everybody forgets about that, you can just log on from anywhere in the world that's got internet and press on or off. So the app's pretty good that way. And the app will also tell you when you're running out of liquid, so you then know that you need to go back and fill it up again.
Brilliant. So what kind of things have we gone through to prove that this is safe? What standards does it live up to?
A lot. So we conform to 4 standards, so that there isn't a standard for killing COVID-19 yet, because COVID-19 hasn't been genome mapped. So what you have to do is, there's a standard for killing all pathogens that basically are harmful to mammals. So we conform to that, which is a World Health Organization standard, and it's adopted by NHS in the UK, Bupa, Public Health Organisation, etc. So we follow that standard and their methodology of how to deliver it and how to check that it's working. So when you get the box, the bottom of all the documentation is basically got the standards written across here, and then the 13704 is the one for sanitising. But we had to do tests, we had to do checks. We were swabbing the areas, so we were having to swab down an area and send this off to a lab to check that we actually can do what it says, and then we got the reports for that. So we conform. We're actually higher sanitation level than most NHS operating theatres when we did it as well. So they were really impressed, and that's leading to more insight as well.
And that's within that hour in that 30 square metres, once it's been on for that hour?
Yep. To get the certification, the testing bit of it, it was 30 cubic metres. A virus had to become inert dead within 1 minute. So we have to prove it 1 minute. Technically, we're actually even less than 1 minute, but the rules are it has to kill it within a minute. And on a door handle, it kills it with 1 second. Literally, you can touch a door handle quite happily, nothing whatsoever, no problems. And it will linger, so it will stay active on a surface for hours after it's turned off.
So not only are these important for everyone's own offices, obviously the reason why we came up with this idea was for all our guys to look at being able to sell it into their customers, various things like schools, etc. Would it be possible, for example, a classroom to go into a lesson, they come out, the rooms get sanitised, and then another classroom goes back in?
Yes, I've actually got tomorrow I'm going to a primary school with that in view. They're having to evacuate a room if somebody tests positive, and then pay for a deep cleaning fogging session, which costs them about £6,000, and they can't use the room for 4 days. And by putting this in and then doing an ATP test, a test that conforms to all the regulations, they can reopen the room within 2 hours. So they put this in the room. In their case, they're going to put it on a trolley, wheel it in, set it going. Their room's about 20 minutes of fogging, leave it for half an hour, say, or whatever time they choose tomorrow. And then they'll go back in, they'll do a test of the air, then they'll do a swab test, and then it'll be signed off. And there's a little, in their case, there's a little sticker, and they'll put the date and time for the insurance company to know that it's been signed off again. So yes, they can re-enter a room quicker than before, because before you get a legal requirement of leaving it for so many days.
And Ian's asked an important question, which is something that carries on from what you've said. As far as all surfaces are concerned, when it's cleaning it, it's different to when you're wiping down, I presume, in somewhere like a library or even in your stores room where there's toners. It's going to get to all those surfaces as well?
Yeah, one of the hard tests, so when people talk about sanitising, they think of squirt, squirt, wipe. But if you're in a classroom, how do you get to the chewing gum? So there's your desk and there's chewing gum under there. And chewing gum's got saliva and viruses and all sorts on it. So you had to actually prove that it goes underneath the desk. So the rule and why it's 30 cubic metres in an hour is it delivers so many particles sorry to get too technical, but it delivers so many particles per million, and it has a saturation in the air, so you can get underneath the desk, you can wrap around the legs of the desk, the surface, the covers of books, and if you're in a restaurant, if that's a plate and there's a plate on top of it, it'll actually get between the plates. So when they use this in food production, it will actually, when they've been using it for 50 years in cheese production, if they stack cheeses, it gets underneath the cheese and the top and everywhere. So because anywhere air goes, under your toilet seat lid, etc., and this basically gets there. It's thinner and lighter in air, so it sticks to everything.
You mentioned the fogging that seems to be mentioned around a bit. What's the difference between what we're doing and fogging?
Well, we also can do a fogger, which is effectively a device like this. And you fill this up with the solution. You then go around and you close your room down. You have to tape up all the windows. You have to remove anything that would warp, like books, from surfaces. So if you're leaving papers out on a desk, they would warp because it's a wet solution. You have to take all the books away. You have to take computers out of the room. It's a very invasive system. And then basically you spray a liquid as if you were spraying plants. Everything becomes dripping wet. So you spray it in one day, full hazmat, everything, and then go back next day and clean all that residue off and vacuum all the powder away and suck all the moisture, and then a day later open it up again. There is a light version of fogging, which is not fogging, but a disinfectant that you can spray in and then go back into the room, say 2 hours afterwards. But that doesn't meet, that wouldn't then be to the government's legislated codes of practice. So fogging is a very wet, invasive, expensive system, and this is an automated system that runs in the evening that nobody even knows it's there. Apart from when you come in next morning, the air smells fresh, it smells like you've been to the seaside and you've sanitized, and then people think that you've done a good cleaning job. But fogging's the opposite. Fogging's they worry about things, but it has its place. Sorry.
Absolutely. So as far as safety is concerned on this one then, because I know our particular one, especially the one that we have upstairs, we have it running during the night, like you say, when we come in, everywhere's sanitised. With our guys in the office in particular, because there's actually no harm to the product, the SmartMister solution, sometimes we'll also put it on during the day. It doesn't harm any foods or anything like that. If someone leaves an apple out overnight, it's not going to hurt that, is it?
No. The actual liquid has been used, it was invented in the First World War to clean open wounds. If you cut yourself, it's what your body uses inside, and basically that rushes to the wound and stops any viruses and any bacteria getting into your bloodstream. So it's already in your body, it's perfectly natural, it's something that's there. It's nature's natural way, and we're just mimicking nature. But for safety side of it, it's used in food production. When you buy apples from Sainsbury's, it's already squirted with this so that it doesn't rot when it's on the shelves. Some places put it on bananas to stop them more ripening quickly. It's put on tomatoes, it's put in corn on the cob. It's already in many things you've had. Cheese, pretty much any mature cheese got it. Sometimes when you buy cheese, you'll see little white crystals in, yep. And that's this. That's a build up over a large period of time. It's safe.
So even on the one of the guys who's on this at the moment are from Finland, and obviously the testing that we've done is up to European standards.
Yes, there isn't so we got a British standard and a European one, but the British one hasn't paid for any of the latest COVID-19 and COVID-21 updates. So the European one has. So we're trying to stay ahead, and then the British one will buy it from the European one in March, April next year. So we will adopt that. But we have the British code and the European code as well. So the British one is the BSEN and the European one is EU 1999. And so we have both that we comply to. They're very, very similar. They're just the British buy it from the Europeans, mostly Germany, and then we adopt that.
Okay, so how do we go about cleaning this product then? What do we need to do to make sure it's looked after and maintained as if we were going to sell this to our customers?
So recommend that you maintain it, clean it every time you need to do a refill, which is normally about 31 days. And literally all you do is lift the lid, lift the tank out, the reservoir, on the inside of it, clean it with a cloth, squirt it down with some solution, isoprethrin or something, ultrasonic toothbrush, wipe that off, and then just wipe it down with a damp cloth to get rid of any residue, and that's it. As long as you do that, there's nothing else you really need to do to clean it. It's just that inside will build up a white powder. Think of it as salt that will eventually build up, and you just need to stop that building up. Because if you don't clean it, and I've been testing one that we've not cleaned and we haven't cleaned it for 4 months, instead of leaving it on for an hour, you might have to leave it on for an hour and 10 minutes because the system gets clogged up, and then you wouldn't then meet the standards. But it's simple to do and easy to do as long as you just keep doing it on a regular basis.
So on the when the machine's on and it's been running, and like you say, over time we've done a lot of testing on this product now, will it affect any electrical equipment in offices or in schools or in salons or those type of places?
So it's a dry product. It puts the mist that is in the air isn't wet, as odd as that sounds. And if it touches a surface like a light switch or inside of a computer, it doesn't do it harm. It's just like taking a product and using it in a seaside resort. So if you were going to Blackpool and you had a computer or photocopy in Blackpool, it's the same as using it that. It just changes the ions in the air a little bit. But no, it doesn't do any harm to it. If you were to do no wiping down whatsoever, so if this flows and you never ever wipe a surface, which then means you don't meet the government regulations, and you had your black iPhone on your desk, when you go back to it in 4 months' time, there'll be a white film on it. And if that goes inside an electronic device like a computer, etc., then it can maybe make fans move less so. But the airflow is enough to push that out of computers and push it out of devices, and you should be cleaning that off anyway. So it's not a problem to anything. It doesn't do anything harmless. It's not corrosive. The only side of it that can be corrosive is a non-painted iron metal. So it's aluminium, copper, zinc, steel, no problem. But if you've got something like bare iron, like a horseshoe, and you've not coated that, and that was on a desk or a wall, after 6 months, if you didn't clean the residue off, that would start to look as if it's rusting. But it's a long time, and that happens just as if it was in the seaside as well.
Okay, so on the sensor, which is an extra sales tool, I suppose, as well. On a general sensor, if it was in an office that had never been touched, the sensor would run at about, was it about 5 or 6, 3 or 4? The sensor that you've got at the side of you, the particle sensor.
Oh, the particle sensor.
Yeah.
Yes, the measuring the parts per million of pathogens and other things in the air. There's a scoring system. So if you follow the government guidelines, then a surgical unit that is invasive, heart surgery, has got to get a clean score of between 2 and 6, but normally they try and go for 4 and 6. An office is about 12 on the same scale, and a care home has to get a score between 6 and 8. So when you're not doing much and you've got open air running through and there's good ventilation, etc., most offices are between, in the winter, about say 4 or 6 sort of thing. In the summer, where there's more pollen in the air and there's more pollutants in the air, and the humidity is greater, so there's more things trapped in it, and the ions haven't fallen, then that might go up to 8. If you run this in the evening, you come in here, this will have a score of about 2, because you've basically deionized all the air, you've all the pathogens, the dust, the people's hairs, the ozone from photocopiers will stick to this, and then they'll fall and be hoovered up from the carpet. So you get a score. If I turn this on,
Yeah.
if you want me to jump to that, just do it manually. So it needs a little moment. What it's doing now is it's heating an element up inside, and then we're trying to get to a temperature that is relative to the air. So in the back of the unit, there is a sensor, and that sensor will work out the moisture levels and the temperature of the room, and then work out the relative humidity of the room. And it will adjust the airflow sucked in. There's in the back of the unit, there's a HEPA filter and an active carbon filter here. Air is sucked through that. It then runs through a UVC light. I'll leave it on. And then the air comes in removed of big particles and spiders and all the rest of it. So the air comes in and then it passes through and it adopts the HOCI, and then it's spread out into the air. Then you'll see that this thing starts to basically flash to let you know that your particles are gone from more than 4 upwards. So I can wander around my office. I can have this in the bottom left-hand corner of my office, and then I can wander to top right and check that I've actually got a saturation. So if that goes above 144, we've basically got to twice the legal limits to get the certification. So that'll get the chewing gum under the desk. And it's a great tool to make sure it's working. And if someone during the daytime goes up and sticks their face and eyes directly into this, it's perfectly safe. Yeah, it just cleans your eyes and helps your skin. So I've sat in a room as part of the experiment in a closed, sealed little toilet room, very small, no windows, door taped up, with this running for 3.5 hours until I couldn't see in front of me, breathing in, as part of, how does it feel like?
See, the thing is, what we're trying to get across from this as well is it's not sanitize, it's not doing the air all the time. This is an actual surface sanitizer. That's what it's doing. Unless you leave it on constantly, which is not going to happen, it is a surface sanitizer. That's what it's doing. But it's to show exactly where it's spreading to. So that's what the sensor will be used for, is to go back. Well, actually, it's almost to prove it to your, to your customers, etc. That right, I've got it on. If I move into a different room, you can see that it's hitting that room. You can see that it's hitting the bathroom over there, the kitchen over there. Or do we need to put another SmartMister in somewhere else? So that's what it's for. I think I've just turned it on.
Yeah, one of the test sites that we did sort of 4 months ago when we first started to experiment with it is we put it into a building and they have a reception area in the middle of it, and they have lots of rooms, treatment rooms that come off of there. So they wanted to put it in reception so that their customers could see that they're doing something. A notice above it letting them know that they've taken precautions to sanitize the place. And then they want to know whether, well, will it go in the room because there's a locked door there? Will it go in the toilet? So we ran around with, a sensor and basically scanned all the rooms. And even in the toilet, which was a good 20 meters away, was basically at the government limits. So life was good. It was a good way of proving that they didn't need to buy 2 of them. It was actually getting to the one place. And it's a great diagnostic tool.
Absolutely, and that was one of our main test beds to start with. Was it a chiropractor that we?
Yeah, that's a chiropractor. Yeah, and I actually spoke to them yesterday, and they've been delighted. What it did for them is it meant that instead of having a person in the treatment room for 15 minutes and then having to spend half an hour to 1 hour cleaning, and then having a period that after they've cleaned, allowing people in. So they went from having, I don't know whatever it was, say 7 or 8 patients in 1 hour at whatever they charge, to suddenly only having 1 patient every hour and a half. So their income was down. So putting this in, they went to their governing board and got the regulations of how to prove clean, and they put this in, and now they've got 3 minutes in between patients, and all they do with that is they wipe down the previous patient's thing with a top-up squirty version, wipe it away, and then they check with the sensor that's still there, and they occasionally do a swab test, so like a daily thing for the insurance company. And now they've got 10 times more patients allowed in, but the patients think it's really clean and smells clean, and you know they got confidence from it.
If we're honest, the smell of it actually is just like you've literally just walked into a house near the seaside. It just smells clean.
It is also it's just like seaweed, salt water, and sunlight hitting it. It gives you that smell of seaside. So it is very, very similar to that. It's a bit like the stuff they used to use in swimming baths that people think of as chlorine, which isn't actually chlorine, but it's got that chlorine type smell to it. So it's just people associate it with clean.
Brilliant, brilliant. So what we'll do is we will look to open up to, if anyone's got any questions, we'll in the next couple of minutes, Stuart will unmute everybody. We'll open the floor so that everyone can ask any questions that they've got to Ray about the SmartMister, and see what you guys think. If afterwards as well you have any questions, or you think, oh, actually I wish I'd have asked that, then make sure you drop either your account manager an email, or myself or Ray, and we'll be able to help you on that. We will also send across the full questions and answers from this session and from last week's session as well, because we've pretty much got a lot of those in, so that it answers the questions for you and send them back by email so you can have a look at them as well. And are we doing a recording of this video as well to be able to send across to the guys so they can watch it back?
Yeah.
Right, so if we'd like to open up to anyone, if anyone's got any questions, because you seem a very polite bunch today. Ian?
Yeah, I think Stuart's probably just clarified it. So hi everyone, I'm Ian from WBS Copies. So one of my questions is, I mean, I know that, like she was saying, it can hit microphones and things like that. But when you've got say for instance a tiny iPhone, and you've got your speaker and your microphone on that, how far into something like that will it go?
The particle density of it is lighter and thinner than air. So if air gets into it, this will get into it as well. And because it's lighter and thinner than air, the air then from the outside world will push any residue out. So it's 47 microns wide. It's really, really thin, and it penetrates anywhere the air goes. So if you're talking about going into a condenser mic in an iPhone, there is a filter that goes over that to stop when you're breathing into a microphone. You put titanium dioxide and you put carbon monoxide, etc., into the microphone, which is thicker than air, so they build up and they eventually vibrate. So it will make your microphone work better because you're actually removing the CO2, etc., that people are breathing into your mic in that scenario.
The one point I forgot to mention as well, I know in our building we've now had the SmartMister running for about 4 or 5 months, obviously, since what's been happening. Now the plants have gone absolutely nuts since since the SmartMister's been installed upstairs. And what happens with those, with plants and things, Ray?
Because it's a product that's found in nature, this is something that basically makes the blood cells in the human body run 10 times faster. And plants do the same sort of thing. The plants get no bacteria, no mushroom spores, etc., on their leaves. So if you've got a green leaf plant that is shiny on one side, dull on the other side, then what happens is that the plants get a moisture from that, but they also get sanitized air from that, and they also get the lack of mushroom spores that are trying to eat it. So the plant doesn't have to produce HOCI or HCOI in the plant's case. And because it doesn't have to, it then gives you more energy, gives the plant more energy to grow quicker. So it accelerates the plant's growth by 4 to 8 times. And wow. So if you've got a pampas grass type thing, you'll notice that even when it started to look dead, it'll do the opposite. It'll grow really quickly and it'll be much healthier and shinier. And that's the other thing as well. If you've got a real wood surface, it'll rejuvenate the real wood like oak. So it'll actually give the oak what it had when it was a living thing and rejuvenate it. So a lot of things like your skin, it'll make the skin soft. It'll remove scrapes and cuts on your skin, and plants it'll make grow faster as well.
Well, it literally, I mean, that particular one, it looks like a rainforest upstairs next to my desk. Someone said it was something to do with it growing next to me.
Used in corn production to accelerate the size of corn, makes it grow healthier and quicker without bacteria on corn.
Wow.
So,
so when you actually buy the SmartMister, you also get 2 5-litre bottles of SmartMister solution. Have you got some there? It's around about this size. Yeah. So in a 30-metre square room, if you're having it on for that hour a day, how long will this last?
exactly 31 days, which is all tied into trying to make an exact number for an exact standard. So it depends a little bit on the temperature of the building, but taking a mean of standard British temperatures indoors, then 31 days it should last.
So it comes with 2 of these with each SmartMister. So realistically, you'll have 2 months worth of solution, unless you want it on during the day as well.
Yeah, think of it as one's in and used up, and then whilst that one, when you run out of that one, you order another one, and you still got one as a spare. But some people choose to leave it on longer, or do top-ups of every 10, or when you're having a lunch break and everyone leaves the building, something top it up, so that people use it in slightly different ways. But
Ray, am I right in thinking that if you've got this in an office, as opposed to say a shop or a barber's hairdressing salon, where the doors are opening and closing, this should then be on more frequently or shorter bursts, or will it last longer, etc.?
So putting it into a hairdressing salon, if you put it right next to generally the front of the door, so say the reception area is in the front of the door, and you have this, nighttime, no problem, because doors are closed and there's no sunlight coming in. During the daytime, if you want to top up, if you squirt this, you could say that 70% of it will go straight out the front door, and then when sunlight hits it, it will turn into a chloric gas thing, and it'll just dissipate into the air, so it'll be no good for inside. But if you move this to the back of the salon, even if the front door is opened, it would still reach, because the air on the outside, the law of diffusion would pull it out, and it passes every surface on the way. So if you have a cash register and a till, an iPad at the front door, the gas would actually be pulled out into the atmosphere. So it would still work in that scenario, but you would use 70% more of the product, depending how many times the doors and windows were open and closed.
We did on the actual manual, you have got a guide to show you where to actually put it in the office or in the salon, or
we've worked out a formula, and it shows you where not to put it to certain objects not to put it. So say for instance you've got a smoke or an intruder alarm, an infrared alarm, and that's on at night time, and you put it directly below that. When this suddenly turns on at 4 in the morning, then you're changing the temperature. So some alarms might think that you've got a rapid change in temperature, that might be a human body or something, and set an alarm off. And some types of smoke alarms might detect it as being smoke. So what you would do with those is move it away from it, or change. There's a thing called, unfortunately it says baby mode on this, because the Chinese translation baby meant small. So small room mode was turned into baby room mode. So the manual says baby. And that is a mode that will, if you're very close to a smoke alarm, you put it on and it sends it in small puffs. So it takes more than an hour, but it's good, it's okay for alarms. But yeah, there's a whole formula of where to put it, how to work out the size of rooms that you do, and then a a formula that you take the length and breadth, multiply it by 0.03, and that tells you in hours how long to leave it on for. So there's a whole rule set to it.
Can you
Ray,
adjust-
is it also prudent to mention that you can actually work in it and with it whilst it's running? It doesn't have to be an overnight scenario.
So I think personally you should run it overnight. We're working, I was going to say with the NHS, but at the moment it's not. So NHS and World Health Organization have given us a set of guidelines, and it's a methodology that we're trying to comply to. And if you follow that, you can guarantee that you've done everything to make sure that your premises is COVID safe and other things safe. And we're kind of gearing this up to being a nighttime product. And then we're also going to introduce later on a daytime product. And a daytime one will screw onto a wall, and it will basically change the ions of the air. And so this will be at nighttime, another one during the daytime, and you end up with a total solution. If you have this on at night and you have it on a day, to get it to the government regulation tick, you'll end up creating a fog in the room that is difficult to see through, and people might complain because it looks foggy. So it's not the best thing. If you just turn it on and leave it on for a little bit, we only had this on for I don't know how many minutes, but say 1 minute or 2 minutes, and once the sensor wakes up, it's still in the air now. If that's above 47, then we're actually actively destroying any pathogen in the air. If it's above 144, we're at government regulations for instantly destroying within 1 second in the air. So if you just do a quick top up and it's not full of mist, then yes, you can use it during the day, but it's not designed for that. This is a nighttime, and then we do another one for during the day.
And this, to be fair, as we've said before, it's not about clearing the air because as soon as it's breathed, etc., it's pretty much gone. It's cleaning the surfaces, and that's what it's all about. Is meaning that actually your staff can come into a clean office that they're actually, they know has been sanitised, or your customer staff know that they're coming into a clean office that's been sanitised. Now, it's never going to take away from cleaning because obviously someone's going to still have to come in and clear up the porridge or whatever is on the side. But it's sanitising those surfaces, isn't it? Making sure that those surfaces are safe for your staff to come into.
So if you're in the NHS or an office and you have a hot swap desk, it means you can use hot swap desk again, because the desk will be coated with a powder you can't see, and then that basically germs that touch that will die for quite a lot of hours afterwards. The regulations basically state that it's got to be at least 3 hours after it's all settled, and that's many hours after it turns off as well. So
How
if
does it last for,
Can you
right?
control the mist, the flow of the mist?
you can control the, it depends what you mean by control. You can control the quantity, and I can control the parts per million that come from it. You can't, unless you ask me to. But you can control how it comes out and how far it will travel, because this, what they call baby mode, which is originally meant for small rooms, if you turn it on that, you can make it do a small room, turns off quicker, or it'll actually do 80 cubic meters of that, but you'll have to have it left on longer. So you can control when it turns on, turns off, and you can have it on a light mode. So if you just want it during the daytime, instead of coming out really fine, you can take this dial and turn it down, and basically...
Would that not reduce the actual fogginess then?
It does.
Making
if you
it
just want during
more...
the daytime to pop up, you can do that. So the fog is still coming out. You probably don't know if you can see it in camera now, but it's now it's actually thinner than it was before. So it doesn't have as much of the product inside it as well, but it still is within the government guidelines. So it's now like a hand sanitizer as opposed to a surface sanitizer. So you can control it. And then when it comes back to nighttime again, the app will make it default to the correct parts per million that is relative to the temperature and the humidity of that room. and the device will automatically adjust so that it gives it the right velocity of it and the right parts per million of it. So even though you can't see it, but the meter's going way up, and it's running. I can turn it up or down manually, and I can turn the deionizer on to deionize air to get rid of dog hairs and particles in the air and things as well. And then there's a mode thing that turns it into a daytime mode, but it's really think of it as nighttime, and then you can have exceptions.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about it the most, I mean, over this last 6 months, I've never ever rubbed as much alcohol on my hands as the last 6 months. All it seems to be is all about as much alcohol as you can on your hands, etc. Whereas this is a completely safe product. It's not got anything like this in. It's safe for children. It's safe. There's no worries about, because at the moment that's all it seems to be is all about alcohol. Whereas Bupa have signed off the SmartMister solution. They use it in all their hospitals as well, don't they, Ray?
Using all the hospitals, they've published papers of when the COVID first thing started to break out, they were told to get all the government data in to prove how many people have caught COVID and things. They found that a few other places didn't have any breakouts of COVID, and when they tried to figure out what the difference was, they found that they were actually using HOCI as their disinfectant. So they published that fact that they never had any outbreaks. They didn't buy it for that, they bought it as a surface sanitizer, but it turned out there was no COVID break. So they're quite proud, and they publicised it, and they did a news article about it. They're not using it in all the hospitals yet.
No.
They're still going through clinical testing.
There's a good point brought up, and this was brought up last week as well, was the question as far as asthma is concerned. And you mentioned that you have got, was it CO? What was it you've got, Ray, that you had when you were younger?
Well, my lungs.
Yeah.
A few years ago, pleurisy. So my lungs stick together, and when I breathe, it rips the lining off. And so if I breathe in hard, so I've learned to shallow breathe, but if I breathe in full lungs, it hurts. And not that I'm a doctor, I can recommend this, but this has actually helped me breathe heavier. If I had asthma, then it might be the opposite. It's asthma, you have to do small amounts of it and build it up. This is also, I found an article where this is used in racehorses to improve the lung capacity in racehorses through a nebulizer that goes in. And I found an article talking in Australia that it's used as something that miners use to help them breathe in. I've forgotten the gas, but it's some gas that's underground, radion, that basically isn't good for them. So they use this. So I found many things to do with breathing it.
So it wouldn't hurt anybody with asthma?
No. But then again, you think about if we have this on at night time and then you come in during the day, you've actually stripped all of the pollens and the hay fever stuff and everything out of the air, so that it's on the carpet now and it's vacuumed away by cleaners. So it helps them.
If anything, it gets rid of a couple of the allergies that probably asthma starts up with, things like pollen, etc.
We've got something in the office that's really bad with hay fever, and I never mentioned a single thing about this to them. And then when the pollen count was really high and the phones were saying, close all the windows, we back onto farmland and open fields down here, and the pollen gets bad, and he was always, tears, can't breathe, real problems. Sometimes doesn't come into work because of it. He never had a single day off, and he didn't even think about the fact that there was any pollen, and I didn't mention it to him. And then when I mentioned afterwards, when the season's over, he says, I haven't actually had any problems with hay fever this year. So I'm not a doctor and I can't prescribe that, but we have removed the pollens out of the air, and we've got a meter that proves it. So we're going to do a wall-mounted one of these that shows you from a distance your clean air score, and then a metering system that shows you there's no pollen.
The great thing about this, I mean, obviously over the last 6-7 months at Data Direct, things have changed a lot as far as what we're selling, what we're doing. Things have got a lot quieter because businesses have been closed, etc. And what we've been trying to do is find different solutions for you guys to be able to, you know, sell into your customers as a lease product, as a service product that you know, for something extra for you guys to sell. And what I think we've found with the SmartMister is an absolutely brilliant business machine. So obviously the copy side of it might be quiet, but these are business machines that you can go in and sell to your customers that are serviceable. So you can lease them. You can put a maintenance package together, whether it be with you know, it obviously has to be with the SmartMister solution, but whether it be that you put in one 5-litre tub of SmartMister a month, but actually anything extra than that they need to pay for, but there'll be a contract for you to come out and clean it. They're all different ways that you guys can actually sell this into your customers, but this is ultimately for an extra tool for you guys to be able to sell while things are slightly different within the copier market. It's a business machine, and it's something that all your customers should want to have.
Is there any competition out there at all? I've seen one on Amazon, but I take it it's a solution, isn't it? That's the main part of it.
Yeah, it's a slightly different as well, because with this particular product, it's a modified product by us here at Data Direct. So there are products that are fairly similar. However, if you use them to do what we're doing, and Ray, I'm hopeful, will confirm this, they'll be dead within a couple of weeks because they cannot work with the products that we use it with. They haven't been tested to the standards that Ray's tested them to. They don't have the warranty that we would put with these products, so they are a completely different product. And the one thing, I mean, I'll pass over to Ray in 1 second, but the one thing that I want to get across to you all is there is no such thing as SmartMister other than to you guys at this moment in time. You know, we brought this just for you guys to be able to sell. So people may say there's something similar, but it is not there, and it will not do what this does over time. Is that right, Ray?
Yes, there is competition out there that are making machines that are doing fogging, but when they do that, they then charge to go in and clean all of the moisture and things away. So it's a process that they're getting £3,000, £6,000 for every 4 days to do. And it's a chemically controlled system, and you don't get certification afterwards, but most people have to do it because they're getting shut down if they don't do it. So there's solutions to do that. You can find in the food and beverage industry misters. So they're originally designed to grow mushrooms because it makes plants and things grow faster. And you can get that there's some people taking those and saying, well, we can put in, there's a disinfectant that's used in aeroplanes, and they can put that in there, but it's not safe for an awful lot of things. Again, it's a controlled environment stuff, and it's expensive. Instead of being a small amount of money for 5 litres, it's a big amount of money for 5 litres. So there isn't one like this. This is a company that manufactures for Panasonic, sells on Amazon, and it's really sold into hotels for another purpose. And then we take that, we open it up, and we change a part in it, and then we modify a couple of other things in it. And then we change the software side of it so that we can guarantee the algorithm of parts per million and things. If you were just to put hydrochloric acid into any normal device, it eats metal, so it would break in next to no time. But to get the compliance, to get that sticker, might not sound important, but that sticker means that it's compliant to government standards. It is heavily modified.
Ian?
So have I understood this right? So this is not going out to Joe Public. So for us as dealers, can we have the literature that we brand and selling it as our own company? Have I understood that right?
Apart from the actual, obviously, it's always going to be a SmartMister, but obviously you can have it branded as far as you know, any literature that goes out, but it will always be a SmartMister because this is just for you guys. It literally is just that.
Sorry to interrupt. If I answer that one, I've tried to make sure that all the literature isn't full of data directed and things like that on it yet. It's only got SmartMister, so if you put that in your windows saying that these premises have been sanitized overnight, yeah, you do the other things, it's got SmartMister on it. And the reason for that is we've paid the thousands of pounds for the certifications, and we're the ones that are talking to government departments and getting it tick, tick, tick. If you do that, and you present it all as yourself, then when it comes to the lawyers trying to sue you, they'll sue you as opposed to us. So we've debranded it, and it only has a SmartMister, and SmartMister doesn't have presence anywhere outside, doesn't sell direct and things like that.
So it's more from a selling point of view rather than the sticker in a window that I was referring to.
Sorry, say that again, Ian. I didn't quite catch that.
It's more from a selling point of view rather than the authentication that goes in the window.
Yeah, I can answer that. We can provide you with unbranded media, brochures, flyers, etc., which you can add your logo to, or if you speak to your data direct account manager, we can add a high-res logo to our artwork to then provide you with a saleable document to sell the SmartMister product as a, in this case, Wade Business Systems solution.
That's what I was after. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that we've got no problem doing at all. I mean, this, again, like I say, the last 6 months I know has been tough for everybody. And that's what, you know, us at Data Direct are trying to do, is to make sure that you guys have got something that is solely for you to sell. This isn't going anywhere else other than to Data Direct customers. So it's a real advantage for you guys to be out there being able to do, well, and to keep your customers safe at the same time. I mean, that's ultimately what it's all about at the moment, is making sure that everyone's safe at work, at home, or wherever. And you guys have now got the opportunity to be able to offer that to your customers.
And just before I forget, there's a couple of additional services that might be useful for you to resell on. If you sanitize a room with this to our methodology, and you want to, a customer says, can you prove that it kills COVID in my office, etc., you can actually run a test with the swabs and then stick it through. So you can send it off to an independent lab, and £2,000 later will give you a clean score result, and then you can use that, it will stand up in court. Or we can basically post one out to you, so we can do the test, because we invested in the diagnostic and lab test equipment to do it, and then give you a report for a few £100. Then you sell to your customer for more than that. That then stands up as an insurance document.
For some people, obviously the sensor is something that, you know, shows what the actual machine's doing itself. But the actual, there are some customers that will say to you, I want you to prove it. I want you to prove it to the government standards that, you know, you've said it will do. So this is just like a swabbing kit that Ray would send out. You guys would go in, swab the various areas, package them back up, send them back to Ray. Over the next 3 or 4 days, the SmartMister would start running, and then Ray would then send out the next lot of swabs for you to test again, send back, and then you would have actual proof to your customer of what is done. So that could also be sold into the package as well, if it needs to be. So that's not a problem either. Cool. Any more questions before we start wrapping it up?
You get the sensor with it. You mentioned the sensor. You get the sensor and everything with it, remote control.
The remote control comes with it. The sensor is an additional product that we can put together some pricing, etc. for you guys. Okay. I don't know if necessarily you're going to need one per SmartMister, but I think it's a good sales tool to have for if any of your guys are going out to sell it. Yeah. It's also something that's great for your customer to know what's going on within their office as well. So there's various different ways of using that as well, isn't there, Ray?
Yeah, it's not something you wouldn't leave it with the customer.
No.
You're selling it, you have one of those, and then you run around and go, yes, this area, it's got perfect saturation. Over here, it's 10% less, but that's still within the limits. Over here, it's 30% less, still within the limits. And you can say, yes, I'm reaching the toilet. Yes, I'm reaching this other room. So it's a great
Yeah.
diagnostic tool for that and sales
Good
tool.
tool to have, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Or,
so.
or you need another one putting over this side of the room as well.
And we are going to make a wall-mounted customer-facing one with a clean score on it, so you know that your office is still good. But that's buying into the overall principle of daytime and nighttime and doing it. So there will be other things. But yeah, these are great to demonstrate to the customer and they get a practical view of it going, oh, actually it's working here, it's working there. It's good that way.
Just one question.
Sorry?
Sorry. Just one question, Dean from ABC. All it says is we've had a couple of customers where they've had to close down and add a deep clean.
Yep.
What would you recommend with this? Could that actually take away that? Would we be able to do this as a service or?
Yes, we've, like the chiropractor and like school, proven that you can do a deep clean within an hour, and you've only involved one person as opposed to a team of 4 people, and then you can have it certified, ticked off, and you can even leave it with a little sticker that has a date and time of when it's been equivalent deep cleaned. You can roll this on a trolley into a room that wasn't designed to be done. You can turn it on, you work out the size of the room, hit it on the app, and then go back into it half an hour later, and you can do a test with one of these, or you can do a proper scientific test with the swabs and prove if, so you need an insurance company and open it up. Yes.
And with the swab, how long would that take to come back?
So if we send it out to you on the Monday, you get it on the Tuesday by FedEx. You do it on the Tuesday, send it to me on the Wednesday, and you've got it on the Wednesday. Or if you want to drive it to us, if you're close, I'll do it there and then. There is a handheld machine that the NHS have got 40,000 of these. You can buy this and do it yourself, and then you can use our license of the software. So you could buy your own machine and physically do it yourself, but you're like £2,500. So if it's something you want to offer as a service, you could invest in one of these and then basically stick this in, close it once the machine's turned on, and there's a quick button and do that test. And it will then send it up to our cloud account, and then that'll go off to another company. Just basically go up and press that. It asks you for the location and it will ask you for the number you've got there, or you could.
It would even be worthwhile when you do it on the, so for example, like that customer that you're talking about, Dean, if you went in and did a swab test on that customer, ask them if it's possible for you to be able to maybe document it or film it, so that when you proved it once to them, that you know they know that actually going into the next customer you can say the same thing. Look what this has done. You know,
and with the swab, do you touch like loads of different services? Is it like what would you do with the actual?
So if you want to do it properly to the standard, you've got to do it in 4 known surface areas. So there's the rule about height and people and lots of different things, but you basically got to, you choose an area. Generally, we put a sticker next to the area that you're going to use as your test. And then next to that sticker, you've got a 100 mil square thing that you take one of these, and then you have to do diagonally straight. So you basically brush it in a pattern, and then rotate this, put it back in, break the vial, shake it like crazy, send it off to us, or put it in the unit. And you have to do that area. So if you want to do it to an official standard, then you've got to do it 4 times. So the kit that we send out to you has got 5 of these, and one's a dummy one. So that's the wrong way of putting it. One is a control scenario. So you basically don't do a test with it, and you don't tell us which one it is, and then you'll get the results back of the one that's never done any test, and that gives you the difference between what was on the surface and this one. So you get 4 of these to do a test on different areas at different heights and locations, and then you send it back, and then you get a result which breaks it down into like an average of it all, a score. And if you want, you can drill down into finding out how many spores you've got, carbon dioxide, viruses, all different. You can break it down into things as well. You can even find that people have got diabetes that were using the desk. So you can break it down further, or you just get a clean score that says that as long as you're below 12 on that score, you can open up and you're safe again.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Wow.
So you can do that. So if you've got somewhere it has to be closed down, or you can say, as part of my maintenance, I'm going to come in once a month and I'm going to choose this area that's got the sticker next to it, and I'm basically going to sign it off so that you can give that to your insurance company that you've kept up with your sanitisation on a regular basis.
Yeah, one of the places that we went to, they closed it down for 2 weeks and said we couldn't go back in for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ray, am I thinking as well, regarding what Dean mentioned regarding deep cleans and stuff, because this is a really light mist and fog, as opposed to cleaning a surface or just say a door front, this will get into door cracks, shelves, books, any area that the air can touch, this will get in. And so it is thoroughly deep clean as opposed to wipe clean.
Yeah, one of the tests that I had to personally do was lift every toilet seat and basically swab underneath the toilet seats. And it gets there, even though the cleaners hadn't cleaned it.
You drew the long straw, eh?
Yeah.
I had to.
I deal with the film industry quite a lot, so that's good for that because they're finding it hard to get insurance at the moment.
Well, and again, that's perfect for things like that. I mean,
Yeah, they've got one in Huddersfield going off now, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think you say so.
And literally they can go in and use a SmartMister and come back out. The one thing that I will say is that the warranty and everything else is only covered if you make sure that it's cleaned once a month, and also that you're using the SmartMister solution. Nothing else is covered under warranty other than those products in there.
What is the warranty on it?
And to be fair, nothing else is guaranteed to go to the standards that we're talking about. So literally, these products are all together.
What is the warranty on it?
So for us, it's a standard manufacturer's 1 year warranty because it's a brand new product for us. We can do an extended warranty as a paid service, but it's then I've got to make sure that the app will record that you're cleaning it, etc. And that it's there's only one part in it really that can break down. Another part that needs regular maintenance, but there's not a lot to go wrong in it as long as you keep cleaning the powder off. It's more that if you didn't clean it, didn't maintain it, and it wouldn't break down, it just wouldn't work to the levels of efficiency, and they're quite carefully calibrated. There is a margin of error in it so that it presumes that not everybody cleans it perfectly, and then the sensors will adjust that accordingly, but it can only do it within a sort of 20% margin. It has to be always working at least 80% efficient. So a 1 year warranty and the ability to do an extended warranty, which we haven't worked out a price for yet, because it's still brand new and we're still doing things like that.
Okay. Fab. Anyone else got any questions before we wrap up?
No.
No? Cool. Now, like I said at the beginning, there will be a video sent to everybody that's joined today so that you can see exactly what we talked about today. There'll also be more documentation on the SmartMister sent through, along with questions and answers as well for you to be able to go to your customers with. The documentation will also have things like the standards on there, etc. But I just think it's a really good time for you guys to be out there and talking to your customers about these kind of products. And again, you're selling a business solution to them, so you should all be pretty comfortable doing that because it's what you all do best. So if you need anything to do with pricing, etc., then please get in touch with your account managers. If you do want to ask Ray any questions, then again, just mention it to your account manager, and we can make sure that Ray is available for you guys to speak to him by email, etc. But I think that was a really good webinar today, so I hope everyone enjoyed it. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. How many have you got? Have you got supply of these? We're not going to sell them and then.
To be honest, it's been a really, really weird situation with this because we knew it was going to be popular. I don't think we realised how popular it was going to be. So it literally has gone mental. Now we are ordering in by the 100 boat at the moment. So we shouldn't have any problems with stock at all. It may be a couple of days, but it won't be any more than that. We've now got a flow going in, so it's nothing to worry about as far as stocks are concerned.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Even the ones that are on Amazon, which is nowhere near the same as this, it's like end of December, even if people went down that route. So, you know.
Exactly. And again, it's that thing of just being able to, you guys, and I know I might have said this twice or three times now, you've got something that is completely yours. It's not like when Ricoh or Canon or Minolta come to you with a machine that's very similar to each other's. You guys have got this machine. There's going to be, as far as discounts are concerned, there isn't any discounts based on quantity. So it's all about who's selling. So, you know, if, for example, and I don't mean to pick you, it's just because I can see you there. If Ian sells 20, but Nick sells 50, there's going to be no difference. It's whoever, no one's going to be able to undercut you. It is literally who's got the best relationship and who's selling the product. So it's all about you guys again. That's the way that I look at it. I think it's really good to do it that way.
Yeah.
Fab. So if any more info, it's info@smartmister.co.uk as well. But for pricing, etc., just get in touch with your account manager. But thanks again for coming on today, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
worries. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.